Hey, everybody, welcome to another award-winning episode of Phil and the Mic. I, as always, am Darrin Michael, and with me, the blurry man himself, exhausted from traveling all over the country, picking up Baseball Hall of Fame ballots, Mr. Phil Calise. Phil, why this year did they change it? Why are you picking up the ballots face to face? Isn't that a lot of traveling for you?
Yeah, it is a healthy amount of traveling, but we are trying to protect voter integrity. So we're doing things a little different this year, a little
So
voter integrity.
you're not going to have those ballot boxes. There's no ballot harvesting going on with Major League
No,
Baseball.
yeah, no, we're not going to let Barry Bonds' great grandfather get a vote in this year. Not going to help. Not going to help Barry get in that way. So we're going to protect it.
Well,
What's going on?
We'll see what happens. I'm excited because today is a big day.
Big, huge.
If you're a big fan of baseball, like we are, something happened today that's never been done in the history of the Hall of Fame, and that is a living player celebrated his 50th anniversary of being a member of the Hall of Fame.
A living player
A
celebrated.
living player has been in the Hall of Fame. He was elected 50 years ago today, 1972. Do you have any idea who that is?
I really, and I have my Mets sweatshirt on, by the way, to celebrate baseball. No, I really don't. I actually don't. I was going to make a guess, but it would be probably ridiculous.
I'll give you a hint. It has to be somebody that retired young.
Yeah, but I mean, and it was in 72.
72 is when he got elected. So his last year was what, 66, 65?
I mean, the only, and I know it doesn't add up. So Koufax?
It is Koufax.
Okay.
Congratulations. It is Koufax. And let me just tell you a little bit about Koufax. I mean, I kind of look at Koufax like,
that's crazy, by the way.
Can you think about that? 50 years he's been in the Hall of Fame. Right?
That's crazy. Yeah, I never processed that and I'm a Koufax. Like, I like Koufax. Love his story. Actually have his rookie card. I'm a big fan, but I had no idea. That's crazy.
You got to remember, he retired at age 30. All right, and it's kind of an interesting story because if you look back at Sandy Koufax, right, he had 5 great years, and that was it. I mean, but his 5 great years, he went 111 and 34 in those last 5 years with an ERA under 2. 5 All-Star teams, 3 Cy Youngs, and an MVP. So he was pretty crazy. His last year in baseball, 27-9, 1.73 ERA, a redonkulous 27 complete games, 323 innings pitched, 317 strikeouts, and then he retired. The interesting thing is, what?
You said he had 5 great seasons, correct?
Yeah.
But he had what, 8 or 9 actual full seasons?
He got into the majors when he was 19 and he retired when he was 30. So he didn't put 11, it together for a few years. Yeah.
But what I was going to say is, without looking at it, he probably has the innings of a 20-year today guy.
It could have been. It definitely could have been, which is
like,
which
you
is
know what I mean? Which also puts it in perspective. Like, he still put the innings in of a 20-year player of nowadays.
It's crazy. It's crazy when you think about that. But I don't know if people realize this, but after that incredible year, you think, okay, well, why would you retire? What are you, Barry Sanders? I mean, are you just retiring because you're pissed? No, he actually had chronic arthritis in his arm. And he retired because he was afraid if he kept pitching, he wouldn't be able to use his left hand. Wow. Because it was so bad. So he decided to retire at the top of the top of his game.
Tippy top, yeah.
And the interesting thing was, I read an interesting quote from another Hall of Famer, Willie Stargell, and he said that trying to hit a Koufax fastball was like trying to drink coffee with a fork. And I'm like, all right, that sums it up right there. Okay, the guy was literally impossible to hit. So, so congratulations to him, man. That is unbelievable that he got in and he's been alive. It's crazy. It's crazy, and it's exciting. It's exciting. So, cool. Yeah. So I've just been in an angry mood this week because I see more and more people driving around by themselves with their masks on, or walking their dog outside by themselves with their mask on. And it's interesting because the school has a mandate that if you've got I think it's 100 infected people per 100,000, they don't have to wear masks. All right, 100 per 100,000. If it's under that number, they don't have to wear masks. And so they put it out every week, and you see what it is because they're wearing masks right now. The number was down. It was like at 20 or something, and it was last week. It was at 2,500. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
So they're not. So in your neck of the woods, they're not closing school or we're going remote. They're just either putting masks on or allowing there to be no masks.
No, it's just if the number is above a certain amount, you're required to wear a mask. If it's under, then it's optional. That's how they
decide to do it. So there's no remote, virtual, anything. It's just a mask on or not on requirement. Got it.
That's it. Now,
interesting.
Nowadays, I mean, it's easy to go remote because you're already set up for it. So, so they're all used to it. They all know how to do it. So they could if they needed to, but they're just not. They're just not. So, yeah.
It's not a tangent or whatever. I just hate the idea of kids being masked.
Yeah, I do too. It is,
hate it.
It's not, you know what, it's not even worth discussing. It is what it is. And, until it changes, what are you going to do? But, but I actually had a great story that came out of this week.
I love great stories.
And it was like 10:30 in the morning, and all of a sudden Brooke texts me, and she goes, Dad, you're not going to believe this. And I said, what? No, it was last Friday. Okay. So the national championship game was Monday. And this was 4 days after. She goes, Kirby Smart is at our school today.
Cool.
And I'm like, that's pretty wild. What is he doing there? And it turns out a kid in her class, he's 6'3", 270. Obviously, he's a defensive lineman. He is the #1 ranked defensive lineman for the class of 2024 in the nation.
Nice.
And so he was there. The interesting thing that I thought about I think
it's pretty wild that a 15-year-old's 270 and 6'4".
Oh, okay, he's huge, and he goes to the same PT that Brooke goes to. So he she said hi to him the other day, and he's like, yeah, you're that white skinny girl from Johns Creek that goes to my PT, and she's like, yeah, I guess that's me. But anyway, the interesting thing I thought about it was that she sent me a video of his helicopter taking off from the baseball field. So he actually flew in, his helicopter landed on the baseball field. He went and he spent some time with this guy, and I think a couple other guys, and then he got back in his helicopter and went to a couple other schools in the area. I just thought that was kind of cool. Like 4 days after the national championship, and you're already back on the road. It just goes to show you, man, you've got no time to celebrate. It's just, let's just move on to the next season already.
Well, I actually took it in a different direction when you told me that story, and I just went to the unlimited resources that the SEC teams have. It's like, hop on your quick helicopter, because he's doing that all day long. The bills they run up. Forget the $8 million he makes. How much does he spend a year? Like, it's
just the recruiting is just, it's got to be absurd. The travel, but you know what? Hey, listen, they won the national championship. You do what you got to do, right?
Hey, that's it.
So all good stuff. So so let's get into a little fun stuff here. So fill up your bank account. We didn't do a podcast last week. We just couldn't get it done. But 3-2 in your final week. You ended up the season 41, 26-1, which is actually a 60% winning percentage. So congratulations, you finished over 60%, which, from my knowledge, doesn't happen very often when you're picking with the spreads.
A solid run. And I'm a little bummed about that. Obviously I love to do our podcast, so I'm bummed we didn't connect last week to do one, because I think I would have had a banner playoff week. I pretty much would have had all the games. The only game I would have probably lost was, and we'll get into the games, was I would have been off on the oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. What was it? Not the Bengals game. What was the game after the Bengals game on Saturday? It was the Bengals beat the Raiders.
Are you talking about the Cowboys?
No, I like the Niners.
Yeah.
No, it was the late Saturday night game. Oh, it was Bills Pats? No, I had the Bills. Oh no, the Rams Cardinals game. I wasn't confident in the Rams. That would have been the game I was a little worried about. I don't know if I would have picked that game. And they blew them out.
Yeah, you botched that one. But also, I mean, 0-1 on your last lock, but 12-6 on the locks, still 67%. So, man, I got to congratulate you on a successful season.
Good year.
That was good. I
Feel
think that you might have made our dedicated fans a lot of money this year if they followed you.
I'm waiting on YouTube to reach out to us and just see if we want to change to just a NFL betting handicapping.
Just a handicapping show.
Yeah, I mean, I think those percentages, I'd probably put them up against many of those guys that talk like this and say, "You want to come to Vegas? I got a couple games for you."
Yeah.
I think I could go heads up with those guys.
I think so. I think you've proven your worth, which is surprising to all of us. But all good stuff. All good stuff.
By
so
the way, we may want to get this as our first advertisement in the little Wawa. You guys remember Wawa? I know you remember Wawa.
Of course I remember Wawa.
I'm not sure. Georgia doesn't have Wawa though.
No. There's no Georgia. There's no Wawa stand, which is unfortunate because Wawa is great.
This episode of Phil and the Mic brought to you by Wawa.
Sip, enjoy, repeat. Yeah, I mean, I know when we were working together, I used to eat Wawa like every day. It was right across the street.
But you crushed Wawa. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Dude, that contributed to all kinds of issues with me. But that's okay. All kinds of problems, but that's all right. That's all right. So let's get into our 5 questions for the wild card week. Question number 1. What's with all the blowouts? There were 6 games and there were 4 blowouts. You got Bills by 30, you got Chiefs by 21, you got Rams by 23, Bucks won by 16, but let's be honest, they were up 31-0 going into the fourth quarter.
So I was thinking about this. So we have to think about this in terms of there may be some it may be a little bit coincidental, but I think there's one driving factor that's going to be with us for a while, which is the NFL changed the playoff format, right? They added a team. Mm-hmm. So there's 2 additional playoff teams, which means that there's less talented teams getting in.
Right.
Also, the 2 seed no longer has a bye. So a powerhouse team of every other year that would be sitting at home enjoying a week off is now playing the worst team that made it. And so you have an automatic, the 2-7 matchups in each conference could lend itself to blowouts. And you saw that yesterday, this past weekend.
Yeah,
the Bucks could have beat the Eagles by 80. I mean, it was 31-0, and Jalen Hurts did what he's famous for, which is putting up garbage touchdowns late. He likes to, he saves his stat line with late touchdowns. He's done it in a lot of losses. They got blown out. It was 31-0 in the fourth quarter. So that's a blowout. The Chiefs ended up blowing out the Steelers, right? That was the other 2-7.
21 points. Yeah.
Right. That was the other 2-7 though, right? So, I mean, and that game was a little dicey for a little bit, and then they took charge and blew them out.
Oh, so, crushed them.
I think, right there, you're going to get some more blowouts now in that first round. And then let's be honest, I think the Bills have shown what we always thought they could be, right? And the Pats were living a little bit on borrowed time. They haven't been the same team they were in the middle of the year. Mac Jones has been figured out. And that was that. It's an interesting thing. I think of it as a Jet fan. I'd sign up in a heartbeat for any sniffing of a playoff game. But I just wonder if the way they lost that game takes a little sting or puts a little sting in their season, because the idea that they're like, overachieved and are this team that's now right back to being a juggernaut or right on the precipice. I mean, there's a big gap between the Bills and Pats. You saw it in that playoff game when the Bills took them fully serious, took away the run, made Mac Jones beat them. They didn't have much there. So I think in a little bit of the haves and have-nots, I think, we saw that a little bit, but the format's going to play a factor in some of these blowouts now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you brought up a good point about the Bills and the Pats. It's funny how pretty much most of the season the Bills still had a successful season, but they underachieved with their expectations. Their expectations were so high they couldn't do anything but underachieve. And obviously the Patriots, big overachievers here. I mean, nobody thought they were going to be any good this year. So it's interesting how they meet in the playoffs, and finally it's like the ship has been righted. The Bills turn out to be this great team they were supposed to be, and the Pats just can't keep up with the Bills. Maybe during the regular season, people thought that it was possible, but the Bills are just too talented. That's what it comes down to.
It's a little bit weird. I mean, I take nothing away from the Pats. It is a little bit weird that teams, and including, if we remember, the Buffalo Bills weeks ago, in a driving windstorm, let the Patriots run 60 plays, 57 of them run plays, and beat them.
That's right.
And it's weird that teams let the Pats run on them when Mac Jones seemed to be the person you'd want to make beat you. Now, nothing away from him. He did have moments during the year where he did well. But as soon as teams said, the heck with it, we're not letting you run the ball, he's got to beat us. The Pats do not have the wide receivers, and he doesn't have the skill set, in my opinion, to be that dangerous. That happened. And I think the Bills discovered what I think a lot of younger teams discover, and I think we'll see about the Bengals next year. Being the hunted is very different than being the hunter. So like the Bills finally were supposed to be great. And that's not easy. For the first year, you have that reign, right? So they struggled with that. And I thought that's why I didn't love them as much this year during the season. And the Bengals are going to get that next year, being the hunted. And now that's a different, position to be in. So it'll be interesting to see.
It's true. It's true. Question number 2, and this goes out to my friend Scott up in New Jersey. Why can't the Cowboys play well in the postseason ever? What is going on with these guys for the last, 20 years, 25 years? Cowboys are so good during the regular season. I mean, they play in a really weak division, but they win games. They always win. But come to playoffs, they literally disappear.
Yeah, and I would have had this take. So I like the Niners this past week, and I know we didn't have the cast. My answer to that would have been that you don't know what you're getting with the Cowboys. We talked about it many times this year. In some of these better matchups, they didn't play well. And so they did beat up on the NFC East, but again, to your point, it was pretty weak. The Eagles at 9-8 did sneak into the playoffs, but it wasn't a very good division. No. They've had an odd season where you could have liked the Cowboys to get to the Super Bowl and had good rationale. And you could have liked them to go out this past week and had good rationale.
That's right.
Which makes them an enigma, right? They have a pass rush. They have the ability to light up the scoreboard. So they could beat you with offense. They could beat you with the pass rush. They could beat you many different ways. But at any given moment this year, they've laid eggs in big spots. So, I think they are what they are. I have to say, if I'm a Cowboy fan, you can't have any decent excuse why CeeDee Lamb, their most talented player, had 5 targets in a playoff game. It's like they forgot CeeDee Lamb in the game. And I don't understand that. And now Mike McCarthy's got to be a little bit on the hot seat because, they said it was Jason Garrett and he couldn't win big games, but now McCarthy's there. And, how long is it going to be before Jerry Jones loses it with him too? I don't know. It's true. They're an enigma, the Cowboys. They're paying for all the good luck they had in the 90s too. It's like it's all come back on them.
It's well, listen, one of these days they're gonna be able to get over the hump, but not at the moment. Question number 3: Rams 34, Arizona 11. Are the Rams that good, or are the Cards that bad?
So I think there was 4 teams in the NFC that could win the Super Bowl, get to and win the Super Bowl. The NFC is clearly better than the AFC this year, right? At the top, they're deeper. The Rams are another team like the Cowboys. They can beat you with defense. They can win a game with defense. They can win a game with their edge, destroying a game. They can light you up. They could score points. They can win with offense. They were very similar to the Cowboys. And one of those 2 teams is probably going to make a splash, right? I mean, because they're both dangerous. The Cardinals had no DeAndre Hopkins the last 6 or 7 weeks. He completely took away their big, deep threat. And Kyler Murray went from being all the rage to being a guy who actually looks like he's gun shy to run now. He didn't run the ball at all last game. I don't know how he didn't run the ball in a game where the only shot they had was him to kill them with his feet, and he didn't even try. No, he looked horrible. He looked absolutely horrible, and he looked like a small guy trying to play in the pocket, and that's not his game.
That's right.
And the Rams did something well to do that, but the gap between those 2 teams looked equal to the gap between the Pats and Bills. For teams that battled for a division title all year, the gap looked massive this past weekend. So I think you got to scratch your head a little if you're the Cardinals, unless you want to chalk it up to all DeAndre Hopkins, and he'll be back next year. So I think they'll see. They'll see how much he mattered. But the Rams are dangerous. The Rams are very dangerous.
Question number 4: Can anyone stop Patrick Mahomes? 404 yards passing, 5 touchdowns last week. Is this guy just on a mission?
I mean, again, I don't want to put too much stock. He's had some bad games this year. And
Yeah,
the Chiefs have
he has.
struggled at times this year. I think last week isn't necessarily an indication of what's to happen, just because the Steelers went like 3 and out for like 9 straight possessions. You can't do that against the Chiefs. They're going to kill you. So I don't want to put all this stock in an overmatched Steeler team that didn't really. The Steelers, by a wing and a prayer, got into the playoffs. They were not
Seriously.
a playoff team this year.
No,
I mean, the
not at all.
Colts had to, ultimate egg in the face, lose to the Jaguars for the Steelers to get in. So Roethlisberger was done. That was a team that was done. I like Mahomes. I like the Chiefs. They're battle tested. But this weekend, Bills Chiefs is going to be a war. I don't think that's a game the Chiefs are just going to automatically win. So I think we'll see.
It should be interesting. And then question number 5, Black Monday, in which is always known as the day after the football season is over and coaches get fired. So let's just talk about, and I want to talk about I just want to mention all the coaches that actually were fired during the season too. So it's a big list. You got Joe Judge, who was there for 2 years at the Giants. You got Broncos Vic Fangio, who's there for 3 years. Dolphins Brian Flores, 3 years. Bears Matt Nagy, 4 years. Vikings Mike Zimmer, who was 72 and 56, fired after 8 years. Obviously Raiders John Gruden, and Jags Urban Myers. Any surprises? And do you think that these teams don't
Actually, you forgot one, Cully on the Texans.
Oh, I forgot one. I didn't add that one. You're right. Because that one just happened too. Should these guys get more time? And do you think that these firings are all warranted? It seems like they're quick. You get a few years, 2 to 4 years, and if you're not in the Super Bowl, you're gone. I mean, that's what it seems like.
4 years. If 4 years, you're ecstatic if you get 4 years. I mean,
exactly.
Now it seems like it's 2, 3 is like pushing it.
Right.
I think if you're making the argument for the stability and the necessity to have the cohesiveness with the organization, you look at the Bengals. Zach Taylor had as bad a record through his first 2 years as you're going to find. They stuck with him, and they got the benefit of year 3.
Yep.
And now a Bengal team that not only won the division has advanced into the playoffs and won a game. That would be the story to look at and say, you got to give these guys longer. But I think you also, the pressure in certain fan bases is brutal. Joe Judge didn't get himself fired, I think, as much as the Giant fan base got him fired. 2 years where they went from 6 wins to backwards, where they were supposed to be a good team, and the New York market just wasn't handling him. And so I think the pressure on ownership to fire him was fan induced more than even, I don't think they wanted to necessarily fire him, but they were playing in front of empty stadiums the last month. And I think the fan base just talked, they got their wish. I think it's different in different places. I think you got a little more grace with Cincinnati, maybe some of these other organizations. If you're in a big market, I think it's tougher. But Flores getting fired seems like there's more to meets the eye there, because there's been talk it was quarterback GM fights, internal issues. So, you want to say each situation's different. But the idea that you can have a 5 or 6 year, build it out and start from scratch with a GM and a coach tied at the hip, it's gone. Those days are over. It's 2 years, churn and burn. If you don't start winning, you're out. And no, I don't think that's great. I really don't. But it is what it is now.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's unbelievable. But we shall see. Let's get into this week, the divisional round. It's pretty exciting. 4 games, 4 much more competitive games, if you ask me, much more competitive. So what I want to do is just kind of maybe preview each game, get your thoughts on it, and then get your pick. All right. So let's start with game number 1, and that is the Bengals at the Titans. Titans are favored by 3.5. And the interesting thing about this is, for one, it's hard to believe the Titans even finished up the season as the number 1 seed, considering they lost Derrick Henry midway through the season, who was just an absolute monster this year. But the incredible thing is, it looks like he's back. Looks like he's going to be playing in this game. You think that's going to have an effect on this game?
I mean, you're talking about a situation where he's been out all year, right? So
half a year.
Well, he's been out. Yeah, he's been out a long time.
Miraculously, he came back. So
I don't know what you're getting out of him, so I'm a little bit hesitant there. What's interesting about this game is, like, I don't want to get caught in recency bias of, like, I'm really pro Bengals right now. Like I'm really on the Joe Burrow wide receiver bandwagon. I think they're dangerous.
Yep.
But I also think, and I love Mike Vrabel. So him winning 12 games when he lost his star player and keeping the ship afloat is incredible.
Yep.
I don't think it will be easy to go to Tennessee and win. I think that's a good stadium. I think it'll be a raucous crowd. I think that'll be a tough spot.
Yep.
But I think the better quarterback and I think the more dangerous team is the visiting team coming in.
Yep.
And so in my opinion, I actually think the Bengals win the game outright, let alone
Wow.
3.5.
Wow.
I just think they're the better. I just think if I have to put trust in Burrow or Tannehill, and I'm going to go off the premise that Derrick Henry's not 100% and going to get 30 carries, right? Off of
Probably
missing
not. I would think
10
so.
weeks.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be 10 to 15 touches. I think he's going to bring an enthusiasm. I think he's going to bring a team that's going to rally behind him. So I think they'll be hyped as can be. I think it'll be a tough spot.
Yep.
I am that much of a believer in Burrow and the receivers he has and the danger that both of them possess deep. And I just think the Bengals win the game, but it's not a knock on the Titans. I just don't really feel like they're a real 1 seed. Like I think they're probably the worst quote unquote 1 seed we've seen in a long time because it's been a screwy year and the Chiefs had it and then lost it and what have you. But I think the Bengals went outright. What's your take? You sounded shocked that I said that. So
listen, it's not a bad call. I think it's going to be just a heck of a game. I really, really do. But in the end, I think I don't know if Tennessee is going to cover. I think Tennessee's going to win, but I would say this game is going to be more of a 3-point game. I think this is going to be a close game. I think Burrow is just, he's been on fire. He's been playing so fantastically. But somehow the Titans they just find a way to win. Mm-hmm. And so I think the Titans are going to pull this one out. But I think it's going to be a real tight game. It might come down to the last play of the game, but it should be a great game, which I'm looking forward to. Second game, 49ers at the Green Bay Packers. And this is the biggest spread of the week. Green Bay is favored by 6 points. And the interesting thing about Green Bay, besides the fact that Aaron Rodgers is had another ridiculous season, they're 8-0 at home. They just don't lose at home. And the interesting thing that's probably going to be also in Green Bay's favor is that game time is going to be 13 degrees with a -2 degree wind chill. And which is pretty crazy. What's even more crazy about that is the amount of guys that are wearing short sleeve shirts in that kind of weather. But I'm just putting that out there. So what do you think about that? I mean, the 49ers they're a good team. They tend to play well, but Green Bay just seems unbeatable at home.
So I have I don't say an interesting take, but it's a little bit of a conflicting take. Like I like the Packers to go deep into the playoffs. And I think the sky's the limit for the Packers. And I think we talked about it going in. If they don't win it this year or at least get to the Super Bowl, I don't know. I think we may see some changes. We may see Aaron Rodgers leave, what have you. I hate this matchup for the Packers. I absolutely hate it for the Packers. You mentioned the temperature at game time. I think that completely works into the Niners' favor. They're a major run-heavy team. Forget where they play out of. They want to play ugly. They got a incredible pass rush.
Yep.
They got an incredible sophisticated run game where they use Deebo Samuel a lot to run the ball. And they got a very sophisticated zone read running type of team. They don't really rely on Garoppolo to do a ton. So I don't think the weather is an impediment to them doing what they want to do. I think it is if Rodgers gets behind and has to throw the ball. I don't think it is for them. So I'm going to take the Niners getting 6 and think the Packers win in the game of the week. I will repeat this. I think this is the game of the week. I think this is a last second Aaron Rodgers pull it out win, but I think the Niners give them everything they can handle in a brutal spot. So I think this is close.
Yeah. And I you know what? I have to agree with you. I mean, the 49ers are just a surprise team. I mean, I don't know what else to say about them. They just hang around. They're just good. I don't know what else to say about
They're
it.
Good. And if you watched the game last week against the Cowboys, they didn't get like a miracle play to beat them. The Cowboys tried to pull off a miracle to come back in that game, but the Niners just ran down their throat, did what they like to do. there was nothing special about what they did. They just execute well, and they're a good team. They're like they're just a really good team.
It's true.
They had injuries this year. They missed some games with Garoppolo, but they're a good team.
It should actually be an entertaining game. I agree with you. I think that the Packers are going to pull this one off I think it's going to be closer than 6 points, but I think it should be a fun game to watch, which I'm excited
about. And if you want
to
comp, by the way, they played week 3 when everyone was healthy. The Packers went to San Francisco and won by dose points.
Yeah.
So I think this is another similar game.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Game 3, the LA Rams at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's favored by 3. Interesting thoughts behind this. The Bucs are 7-1 at home, and the Rams are 7-2 on the road. So you got a good home team and you got a good road team playing against each other, and both of these teams I find are just they confuse the heck out of me. I got to be honest with you. I never know what to expect out of either of these teams. I think they're both really great teams, but what happens when you put these guys together? Who's going to come out on top?
Yeah. So if so, this is a little bit of bold. I'm giving you a lot of bold stuff. I'm telling you, the Bengals go to Tennessee and win. I'm telling you, the Packers need a last-second comeback to stave off the Niners. Here's the game I think is the biggest spread of the week. I actually think this ends up being a blowout. I think the Rams blow the Bucs out this week.
Wow. Big.
And I think it for a couple reasons. I think the more hungry team is the Rams. I think they were built to win a Super Bowl this year, right? When you go out and you add Von Miller, when you go out and get OBJ, who's been a pretty important piece.
Yeah.
When you go out and, trade for Stafford, and McVay got a taste of the Super Bowl, realized he needed a better quarterback, and now they're all in, right? They have no draft picks for the next 3 years. They're all in on winning this year. I think that the type of team that beats Tom Brady, and this is from the days of when the Giants beat Tom Brady twice, are teams that don't do it with fancy blitzes and stuff like that. They do it when their defensive line dominates the offensive line. This is what the Rams could do Sunday. They could you can't bring blitzes on Brady. He finds it and he exploits it. That's not the team that beats Tom Brady. The team that beats Tom Brady is like the Giants twice in the Super Bowl, where they can bring regular pressure with their front. And that's what the Rams could do. And if they make Brady uncomfortable, this could be that type of issue. And the reason I think it could be a blowout is if I'm right and they can make him uncomfortable. I don't like the Bucs defense. The Bucs defense hasn't been a shell of itself from last year. They beat Mahomes and dominated to win a Super Bowl. I've not seen that defense the entire year. That team that left that Super Bowl, even though they brought everyone back, I've never seen that team the whole year.
I
really haven't. They look like they were doing it to Buffalo and Josh Allen, that big game late in the year, and then Allen put 31 on them and made a comeback to tie the game and go to overtime. They've just not been that team. I think the Rams end up winning by, I'm going to say at least 2 touchdowns in this game.
Wow. Well, you know what? Listen, I can't argue with the things you're going to say. I mean, the Rams defensive line, anytime you've got Aaron Donald, who is just perennially the defensive player of the year every single year that he plays. I mean, he is one of the most dominant players that we may ever see on the defensive line. Then, like you said, you've got Von Miller, you've got Jalen Ramsey in the defensive backfield. I mean, you got some really, really great things going on. And then you look at it from the other side of the football, and that is the Tampa Bay Bucs. Their offensive line is hurt. They're stud Wirfs. I mean, I don't think he's going to be playing.
They're not the same team. Everybody's got to move that. They're just not the same team.
But the Bucs show up in the playoffs. Their defense, and granted, they played an Eagles team and they were overly matched. Their defense shows up. Tom Brady can make the adjustments. Listen, he's going to be on his back a lot. He is definitely going to get hit. He's definitely going to get put down. But Bruce Arians is going to know this. They're going to understand this, and they're going to game plan accordingly. You're going to see, if Fournette's back, you're going to see a lot of screen passes. You're going to see a lot of short passes, let Mike Evans make some plays, let these guys catch and run after the catch. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, because I think Tampa Bay shows up when they need to show up. I was disappointed with how they played during the regular season, but I was disappointed how they played during the regular season last year. And look how they played in the playoffs. They somehow got it done. They won a Super Bowl. So, so I'm going to stick with Tampa Bay. And I love stats and I love records and I love things like that. Interesting stat. If you look at the 4 teams that are still left in the NFC playoffs, Tom Brady is older than all of the other NFC coaches, obviously besides his own. LaFleur is 42, Shanahan's 42, McVay's 35, and Tom Brady is 44. Wouldn't it be nice for the old man to go out there and kick some butt against this new crop of young coaches?
You're not asking me that, right? You're not asking
no,
a Jet
I'm not
fan
asking
if
you. It's
right.
No.
Right.
I think that this game could go either way, but I think that the Bucs figure out a way to keep this thing going. And I have to pick them because they were my Super Bowl pick. So they have to keep going. So anyway, so good. And then probably the most exciting game of the week. You've got Buffalo at Kansas City. The spread is only 1.5 points. And here's the quarterback matchup you're looking at. Last week, Mahomes, what did he do? He threw 5 touchdown passes. What did Allen do last week? He threw 5 touchdown passes. This could be a heck of a game. This could be a real great game. And obviously, the edge obviously is KC because they're at home. But, you get 3 points for being at home. So I'm thinking Vegas is saying that they think Buffalo is the better team here. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I have a really good sense for the first 3 games and my feeling. Like I really think the Bengals go to Tennessee. I do think the Niners play a heck of a game with the Packers and lose close. I really like the Rams in a somewhat comfortable win over the Bucs. I genuinely think this is a toss-up as toss-ups get. Because there's been enough good and there's been enough questionable moments for both teams to not feel wonderful about either situation. In some regards, I feel like the Chiefs are on a mission to right the ship in the bad taste in their mouth from the Bucs loss in the Super Bowl. But in other regards, I feel like this is Buffalo. Like Buffalo legitimately matches up pretty well with the Chiefs.
Yeah, they do.
And you know what? These quarterbacks are both capable of being nightmares for each other's defenses. It's a tough game. And you're right. Vegas is actually telling you the Buffalo Bills are really their choice in this game.
Yeah.
And they want you to take the Chiefs. And I'm really conflicted on this game. I mean, I really am. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs, but it's like if I'm picking games, this is the game I'm not picking. Because I'm being like very upfront about not loving this game. I'm taking the Chiefs at home. I'm going against what Vegas is like wanting me to do or doing what they want me to do and lose. But I'm really conflicted. I mean, you could easily say what Buffalo did to the Pats is the start of a march to the Super Bowl. Like you could easily say that. And I was not as impressed with the Chiefs beating the Steelers. Like I don't think that's a very impressive win. I think it was more impressive that the Bills stomped the Pats the way they did and like ran it up and like stuck it to them. And like, they're like, we're now the new kings of the division. Like I felt better about them. I'm just going to go Mahomes magic late at home by a field goal, but if the Bills win, not surprised.
Yeah. And I agree with you 100% on this game. I mean, this is truly a toss-up, and I there's a reason that this is the final game of the weekend because they want to build up. You got 3 good games, and then you got the game of the week. I think Buffalo continues. I think they're on a mission. I don't think KC is the same team. They beat up Pittsburgh, but they allowed 21 points against Pittsburgh. And that was a terrible Pittsburgh team. A Roethlisberger, I mean, I think he would have more mobility if he came out there in a walker or a wheelchair. I mean, the guy just can't move anymore. I mean, he announced his retirement, and I'm like, what the hell took you so long? So I think Buffalo is finally saying, you know what? We had kind of a disappointing season, but we know how great we are. We know what we need to do, and we're gonna go in there and we're gonna take it to KC. I don't think KC has it. I think that they've already been there. They've already experienced that. I don't think that they have that swagger that they once had. I think that they've lost it. And I think this is where Buffalo comes in, and it's time that they shut up KC once and for all and show them that they're the team that belongs in the Super Bowl. So I'm going Buffalo in this game. I think they're going to win this game.
Yeah, and I totally get it. And interestingly, it's really some good matchups, and you can make a legitimate case that the 4 road teams win the games. The Niners being the biggest upset on paper, but because I think they match up well with them, I actually think you got a shot for 4 visiting teams to win. It's not out of the question.
This is what we want to see with the playoffs. You want to see 4 just great matchups on paper. And granted, you never know what's going to happen because anybody can beat anybody on any given day. But at the end of the day, it looks like this could be 4 just phenomenal games. And as a fan, I cannot even tell you how excited I am.
Yeah, this could be a fantastic weekend.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's exciting. So good stuff there. Good stuff there. Let's shift a little bit. Let's talk a little Baseball Hall of Fame. As you know, the announcement is just 5 days away. And as of now, there's 44% of the ballots that are in. And as of right now, you've got Ortiz at 83.7, Bonds at 77.3, and Clemens at 76.2%. We all know that you need to get 75% of the vote to actually get in.
Is that 44% in, or that's just the 44% have been made public?
That's 44% of public vote, but there's still
so
a lot of private.
Wanted people to know what they picked.
Right. There's a lot of private that has to be done too. So, when you look at things, the private tends to drop off. For example, Bonds going into all the privates was at 73.7, ended up at 61.8. Clemens was 73.2, ended up at 61.6. So
they're taking about 12% off of what?
Right. And the rough estimate for Ortiz is that he drops down like 7%. It puts him at 74.9%. So the guess is that none of these guys get in. That's kind of how it's looking right now. My question to you is, do these guys deserve to be in?
Yeah. I got to pause. I got to reflect on. So interestingly, when you, because this is our wheelhouse, like my wheelhouse of sport, like Clemens, Bonds, like this is what I grew up with. Obviously Ortiz is later. Ortiz now I'm a grown up watching, but Ortiz was linked to steroids as well.
Mm-hmm.
Ortiz was like a nobody in Minnesota, gets traded to Boston and becomes this superhero.
Stud.
His clutch playoff play aside, because I feel like that's the cherry on top of his career. But I mean, he became this juggernaut player. I kind of lumped them all into the same category, which is, let's just put them all in. And I've always kind of been of this, and I haven't really changed on this. I know some people like this, some people don't, but like, put them in their own wing of a Hall of Fame. Like
the steroid wing.
Well, it's like, but I don't, it's like, I would have like when you walk, you're in the Hall of Fame, you're going through the various different areas of the Hall of Fame, and there's a steroid wing in which before you enter it, you read on a plaque or some type of, screen that shares that these players are clear statistical Hall of Famers that have a notation that they played during this era, in which some of the members included were proven to have done steroids, some were rumored to have done steroids, and we cannot decipher between these guys, but they were the best during an era that has an asterisk next to it. It's an era that it was allowed, for the most part. It was then when it wasn't allowed, it was still people doing it. And I think that's the best way to do it. All these guys belong in the Hall of Fame because it's being silly to say Bonds and Clemens and now eventually A-Rod, who can't sniff it yet, and Ortiz and these guys. They're definitely the best players of their era. They belong in the Hall of Fame. And but I think 50 years from now, a kid who has no idea about it, and he sees these crazy statistics that nobody's matching, should at least be able to be reminded that it did occur during this black era of baseball where this stuff was going on. I think that's the best way to do it.
See, I look at that and I have to completely disagree because, how do you define who gets an asterisk and who doesn't? Just the steroid era?
Well, yeah, it's just the era. I don't sit there and asterisk guys that I know did it and guys I think did it.
Okay, but here's something else. Here's something else. Bonds and Clemens, although they've been accused, they were not found guilty of using steroids. There's not been proof that they actually used steroids. Ortiz allegedly failed a test early in his career. Then you got a guy like A-Rod. A-Rod got 41% of the vote. 41%. And this is a guy that was suspended for a year for using steroids. Not only that, you know how I feel about Bud Selig? If Bud Selig got in and he was the mastermind behind everybody looking the other way, then everybody should get in. Doesn't matter if you use steroids or not. And let's not forget about the facts that in the 70s, amphetamines were running wild. And I
don't think amphetamines have the same.
Well, whatever the case is,
yeah, it
was still a banned substance, whatever the case may be. Or the fact that Tim Raines was doing coke in the middle of the game when he went into the dugout.
The whole Met team from '86 was doing.
Yeah, coke. I mean, you're talking about a lot of things in the past. You're talking about Gaylord Perry with the spitball. How long was he spitting on the ball, and did that have that much of an effect on his career? So there's asterisks that you can put all over the place. And to me, it's you got to define what the asterisk is. Otherwise, you can't have an asterisk. There's going to be people that are looking to cheat all the time. It's part of the game. It's like stealing signs.
I hear you. I mean, listen,
people have been stealing signs forever.
My way was the happy medium to get these guys in, but not just give them because I do think the reason some of these guys haven't gotten in is because if they just get in and there's not what I said, they're not going to get it. There's writers that are I don't want them just in the Hall of Fame. I need some type of blemish if I'm going to let them in.
Yep.
And I think if Baseball Hall of Fame would come out and say, listen, this era, and you could title it 1989 to 2008. I don't know, whatever.
Yep.
It's a 25-year, 30-year era. Everybody played during the steroid era. That's where they go in. But I get it. I think Bonds, I mean, I hear you on Bonds and Clemens. Maybe there was just a lot of smoke and there wasn't any specific, gotcha moment. But I mean, I know Bonds' guy went to jail. But
you know what?
Jail. Clemens,
Listen, there's all kinds of proof out there, but the fact of the matter is they've never been found guilty. And the fact to me that the writers are playing judge and jury, to me, that's a big problem.
Well, is Ortiz in his first year, by the way?
Yeah. This is so
to me, I'm not going to go. I know you're the biggest Hall of Fame guy. And
I love
you have this great collection and all the rest of it. So I get it. I'm not going to lose sleep over the fact that David Ortiz doesn't get in first ballot because there was steroid issues with him. So I'm not going to go crazy about him. Maybe that's the way then that you don't give them first ballot entry. The guys probably did it or failed to test. Because A-Rod's better than David Ortiz.
Yeah.
I mean, A-Rod's one of the 5 or 7 best players of all time. Offense, defense, put it all together.
Oh, yeah.
It's not even close. And he's 40%. So why is David Ortiz at 80%? He did steroids. I mean, he did fail a test.
Allegedly, yeah. Well, early on in his career, yeah.
So it's wow.
I don't know.
Allegedly, early in his career, he failed his test, and that was when he then took this leap from a backup player to a great player. So there's enough there to say steroids may have aided in his success.
Yeah.
So I'm okay him not being first ballot, but I think they all should just get in. So
Listen, we'll see. I'm not expecting anybody to get voted in, but there's 6 guys that got in before. And
put Billy Wagner in. Give someone a shot.
Seriously, right? He needs to get in. Scott Rowland is getting close. Schilling said he doesn't want to get in. He doesn't want to be in the Hall of Fame.
He's going to get the Pete Rose treatment. He's never getting it.
No. And now he's at 60%. He was at 71% last year. He's at 60 because
he's never getting it.
He's a guy that just can't close his mouth. So
right. It's like Pete Rose, though. Pete Rose, too. Every time I think they want to forgive him, he goes, and I did it, and I don't care.
I know. It is what it is. It is what it. We'll see what happens. I wanted to finish up the show just remembering 3 people. Don Maynard, the great Jets Hall of Fame wide receiver, passed away at age 86. Instrumental in that Super Bowl team. I don't think Joe Namath would have been half the player he was if he didn't have a guy like Don Maynard. Bob Saget, died suddenly. We still haven't found out how at age 65. I think everybody loves him if you grew up around when we did as kind of like the TV father, but he was also on, I want to say, America's Funniest Videos, home videos. But the funny thing is that his persona in real life, if you watched Entourage or you've seen his comedy show, exact opposite. It's kind of the funniest thing. But you know, he was a great celebrity and was just in a lot of great things. And, you know, if you watched Full House, which everybody did, you got some great memories from that, as cheesy as that show was.
That show was awesome. I love that show.
It was good. It was good. And he was even in Fuller House. I guess he's not going to be on Fullest House, but that's okay. And that was a joke that he made, that he wasn't going to be on Fullest House.
Did he?
Yeah. And then last but not least, Lusia Harris, age 66. She's a Basketball Hall of Famer from 1992. She died. She's actually the only woman in history to be drafted into the NBA, which is an interesting stat. Yeah, she just died. There's a really interesting video about her life on YouTube, and I suggest everybody check it out. But
cool.
You know, yeah. So we lost some great ones this week, and hopefully that trend slows down, but it just seems like every week we're losing more and more greats out there. So anyway, hope everybody enjoys their weekend. Hope everybody enjoys the football games. They should be fantastic. Good luck. I think we're going to come back and found that my picks were better than your picks this week, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So yeah. So listen, guys, if you like us, tell your friends. If you don't like us, tell your friends. Tell your neighbors, tell anybody. Let's just keep this thing going. Our viewership has definitely increased substantially this year, and appreciate all the support. We're going to have some former baseball players coming on. I've got 5 that I need to follow up with, so we'll see what we can work out in the future, and hopefully we get some more behind the scenes look at what it's like to be a professional athlete. But thanks everybody for joining us. Phil, have yourself a great day. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk soon.
Enjoy the football.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
everybody.
Be well, everyone.
Take care.